Hey guys, we'll go to the test practice site and log in as a guest. Everything's a guest. Sign in. You want to select your grade. You want to select high school. And then scroll down to the algebra test. Now I'm just going to scroll through the settings relatively quickly. Text to speech is on. Text to speech tracking is on. I like those options. But I'm scrolling through here quickly because we went through it already on the English test. I like the pitch down here about 4.
This text is being read aloud.
Okay. Okay, so now that we're into the math test, you will see that here's your question and you can put in answers. Okay, I want to give you an idea on some of your tools that you have. You have a line reader, kind of like in the English. Zoom in and zoom out, of course. Notes, if you want to take notes, you should have scrap paper, though this is a math test. The scrap paper probably would work better. I'm coming to the calculator in a little bit. Masking, you've already worked with masking in English. And now look at the formula sheet. The formula sheet will pop up. And sometimes the formula sheet and the calculator take a little while to open, so it may be best for you to open those right at the beginning of your test. That way they're already loaded, and then you can close out of them. They seem to open up easier after you've opened them once. But if you look here, the formula sheet gives you conversions, right triangle relationships, and formulas for area, circumference, area, volume. All the ones with V are volume. A lot of the right triangle relationships in area and volume will be used for geometry. This is kind of sporadically used through tests. So there's not going to be a lot of help when your algebra test coming from the formula sheet. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. You notice you can move it around though if you needed to. I don't know. It doesn't look like you can resize it. The calculator is pretty important. I'm going to come to it in a minute. You have a pause, a save, and next. If I'm going through here, and I'm just scrolling through some of the questions, like this one right here, number 5, looks like one that we can use the graphing calculator on. I'm going to mark it for review, and you notice that when I use the drop down, number 5 is marked. And it looks like this one right here. We can also graph this one right here. So, okay, I'm going to mark it for review. So, just showing you how to use that mark for review option. Now let's go back to number 5. It says a function is shown f of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. Use the add point tool to show the x-intercepts and maximum or minimum of the function. So you should know the definition of x-intercepts, and maximum or minimum would be either the highest point or the lowest point. But this add point tool may be a little bit new to you. So let's show you a tip here. Bring open the calculator. Calculator will open. Now if you notice here, there's a little bar that I can make it a little bit larger. I can also drop the keypad or keyboard, but then I can also show it again. So for this problem here, I'm going to slide the calculator over, I guess. I guess not. I'm going to close it. This is what I want right here. F of x is equal to x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okay, I wanted to tell you that this widening and shortening is kind of finicky. It's not working out exactly how it should, so be prepared for that on the test. And if I were you, I would try it on the practice test. Try to make that larger, try to make it smaller, but I need the calculator over here so that way I can see this equation when I type it in. And so basically when you have an equation, you just type it in like you see it, So you'll say f of x, close your parentheses, put your equal sign, x, and then to the second power you can use right here a squared, or you can actually use the caret key on the keyboard. Either one will work. A squared, and then we're going to say plus. Now be careful that the plus sign doesn't stay up here at the 2, because it doesn't look like it's going to, but some calculators it'll stay up there and it'll add everything in up on the top with the little 2. And then we want to say 2x minus 3. And so it says use the add point tool to show the x-intercepts and maximum or minimum. Okay, so first things first. What are the x-intercepts? Definition of an x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. So if we look, it's do you see, if I'm on the next line, it still stays lit up. But if I come back and click on this one, it gives me these points for x-intercepts. It gives me the y-intercept, and it will, in this case, give me the minimum. It looks like the keyboard's blocking it. Here we go. So if I click off of it, those points disappear. So basically, your answer is right here. So x-intercepts. X-intercepts, let's go ahead and do that first. The x-intercepts are, clicking back up on that equation, -3 and +1. Do not put the y-intercept there. X-intercept, +1, -3. So add point. There is -3. There is +1, and I've just clicked those points on there. Whoa. I don't know what this thing is doing right here, but that shouldn't be there. That typically, if you see that green G, that's typically not. Oh, there we go. I got rid of it. So I have the x-intercepts. Now I want to find the maximum or minimum. Well, when I look here, the maximum or minimum sometimes, so this is the minimum. It is the smallest point. But if I had a graph that was flipped upside down like that, that would be the maximum. That's the highest point. So I'm getting rid of that, and we're back to the equation that's in right here, the function that's given to us. And so the minimum point right here is -1, -4. So let me close the calculator, and I need to add a point at -1, -4. And you notice that I can't move that point. It locks onto the grid. It has a snap location. It does not allow me to put one like right in the center. And there's the delete button. So the delete button deletes one of those points, and then the arrow will move one if I need it moved. So -1, -4. You have done everything that it's asking you to do, and make sure that you do everything it's asking you to do. Let's score the item. Let's see what it looks like. You do not have this option on the test, but you can at least score it here and check it. Correct. Okay. Now what if we deleted one of these? Score it. Get 0 out of 1 point because we missed it. So that's why you have to make sure that if you put the points in for the x-intercepts and either the maximum or minimum. And that's why the calculator is going to be real handy for you, is because it will allow you to graph. It also does, I mean, we've done equations in slope-intercept form. 2x plus 6. Oh, that's supposed to be a plus sign. So you see that red dot right here? I'm going to click it, and it turns off that previous function. And now y equals 2x plus 6. Y-intercept is +6. I'm using the mouse or the zoom out to zoom out. Going to zoom in so I can see, and I'm just left clicking and holding on the graph to move it around. So y-intercept's at +6, and the slope is 2, which is 2/1, up 2, to the right 1. So up 1, up 2, to the right 1, so the slope is correct. And if I click that home button, it takes me back to this positive 10, negative 10, and then this one here. I don't know if you saw that home button there. See, if I'm zoomed pretty far out, I just click the home button and it takes me back to, so I can see 0, 0. Okay, so then there are just a couple ways that you can delete. You can delete all of them. You would click one of those. There's a copy, it will duplicate. It will duplicate the equation if you're typing in 2 or 3 of them at once. Or if I need to make, if I'm plotting a bunch of points on the graph, I can actually make them as a table. I can put them in as a table instead of individual points. 3, 4 would look like this, but I could make them into a table and put 3 and then 4 and then 3, 5. And I can turn this 3, 4 off, and you'll notice I have 3, 4 from here and 3, 5 graphed. And I can keep adding to that table if I wanted. Hit the X button, it deletes it out of there. The X button deletes it. I'm going to click this red one back on so you can see it. Right here, did you notice the x-intercept? And if I scroll down and click on the blue line, if I'm clicked on the blue line, it gives me the y-intercept and the x-intercept. Okay, so now that is that problem. I'm going to close out actually. Now I'm going to go to number 7. Number 7 is another graphing one. This says a system of inequalities, greater than, less than, those are your inequalities. And it says there are 2 parts of this. Use the add arrow tool to graph the boundary lines of the system and place a star on the coordinate plane to show one solution to the system. So there are 2 parts. So right here's your 2 inequalities. Well, let's go ahead and graph those. Like I said, that was kind of finicky. So what I'm going to do is type those in. If you're having a lot of difficulty with this calculator, write them down on your sheet of paper and then transfer them into here. So this is y is equal to, y is greater than or equal to 5. So right there, greater than or equal to. So I have y, typed it in the keyboard, greater than or equal to 5. And if you notice, it graphs it and it shades it. With inequalities, we're going to shade it. All of these points that are shaded are an answer choice here. If I look at this point is 4, 6. Well, the y value is 6 in that case, and 6 is greater than 5. So any of these points, if I choose this one, -2, 10. Well, the y value on -2, 10 is 10, and 10 is greater than 5. So all of these points up here are an answer choice. And I can zoom way out and you can see that, you know, all of these numbers up here are answer choices. Okay, so that's the first inequality. The second one, y is less than or equal to 2/3 x plus 3. Y is less than or equal to 2/3 x plus 3. I'm going to put that down here. Y is less than or equal to, now I need a fraction, and to get a fraction I use the division key. Watch my mouse down here. 2 divided by 3. And now do you see my cursor? X plus 3 is what I need. So my cursor was there. If I put the X on bottom, that does not give me the correct graph. What I need is I need the X to be out. So I just press the right arrow and I need the X to be out beside the fraction. Plus 3. Okay, so now we have graphed both of these, and the answer, where you're going to place that star, the answer to this system of linear inequalities is where the blue and the red overlap, which happens to be this. It looks like a triangle here, but if I were to zoom out, it just keeps zooming out. It keeps going on forever. And so that's why it looks like a triangle, but it's any place there is an answer. Okay, so now that you can see this on the graph, you just need to transfer it over to the to this. So it says use the add arrow tool to graph the boundary lines of the system. Well, go back to your graph. You notice that the boundary line here was the horizontal. Y is greater than 5. So let's go ahead and put that boundary line on. Add arrow. And I need it to keep going, so I'm going to... Oh, okay. So it did go together there. I guess ideally, probably what I wanted to do is... Let me see if add point will do that. I could have put my 2 points in, then put my 2 arrows in, or just started here and went all the way across with the add arrow. Okay, so there's the boundary line. And when I say boundary line, it's just looking for this line right here. And it's also looking for this line right here for the second one, the boundary line. So basically, you want to think of this as like slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And your point is going to be at 1, 2, 3. And look for another point. Slope is 2/3. Look for another point. It looks like it crosses right there. And you could probably click right here. Yeah, you would click right there. And it will show you 0, 3 is one of those points. That's negative 4.5, 0. I don't think you can graph that one on the answer. But this one right here, 3, 5, you can graph 3, 5. So we're going to graph 0, 3, and 3, 5. Add a point. 0, 3, and 3, 5. Add arrow. I'm trying something here. I don't know if this is going to work. Okay. Doesn't look like that worked, but I'm going to try to move it, right? That's not going to let me. Remember, I'm supposed to go to negative 4.5. And you see that's not exact. And I need it to be exact. Because if it's close, like this, it's close, that's going to be wrong. So I'm going to delete that point and that point. And remember, my slope is 2/3, right? So up 2 to the right 3, down 2 to the left 3. Down 2 to the left 3. Now don't let these numbers confuse you. There's 1, there's 2, 1, 2, 3. And up 2 to the right 3. So I do have a bunch of points there. Add arrow tool will work here. Left click, and there we go. The arrows mean that it goes on forever. I do not have to have it extended on this graph. Okay. So I've done the first part, the boundary lines of the system. Now I get to place a star on the coordinate plane to show one solution. Let's look at the calculator. Right here is the part where, remember, where they overlap. That is the answer. So I need it up in this this part of that triangle looking shape. So I take the star, left click and hold, drag it over anywhere in that area, and just place it. Did I answer everything it's asking? It looks like it. So I'm going to score it. There we go. Graphs the correct lines and places star in the correct location. Get 1 out of 1 point for that. Practice some of these features with the calculator, and be sure to graph anything that looks like an equation should get graphed into your calculator for you to have a visual of what it looks like. And even if it's things that maybe you don't remember, clearly, go ahead and type it in, and then maybe that'll jog your memory of what it looks like. Okay, that's all I have for right now. Let me know if you have any questions.